Good morning, class.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Mom.
Before we formally start our class, who wants to lead the prayer? Okay?
Father God, come be with us today. Fill our hearts with joy. Fill our minds with learning. Fill our classroom and peace. Fill our lesson with fun. Fill our friendship with kindness. Fill our school with love. Amen.
Secretary, is everybody present?
Yes, ma'am. Everybody is present.
Before we start our discussion, let me introduce myself. I am Joanna Sumagaysay, and I will be your teacher for this morning.
A better morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning, Mom.
Do we have any assignments?
None, ma'am. None, ma'am.
Now, for us to have a smooth flow of discussion, we must have our classroom rules. Kindly read it, Mr. Babe. Are the rules clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Before we
ma'am.
proceed to our new lesson, let us have a review on what we have discussed last meeting. So our topic was about the levels of organization in an organism. We will be doing a review in the form of a game called Getting Slimmer. Now, let me divide you first into four groups. Each group will assign a leader. And leaders, kindly come forward and pick your task cards. Okay, now let me discuss the mechanics that is written on your task cards. So the first mechanics, pass the levels of organization on the forehead of each member. Second, arrange the levels of organization from biggest to lowest category by arranging yourself. Third, once you are done, clap your hands. And the fourth, each group should arrange themselves only once. Fail to do well automatically disqualify the group. The last is the team who will finish first will receive a 5 points and the non-winning team will receive 3 points. Do you have any clarification?
None, Mom.
Okay, you may start. The group 2 will receive 5 points and the rest groups will receive 3 points. Now may I call again the group leaders and pick an envelope. Now, let me discuss the mechanics of your next activity. So the first mechanics, you need to assemble the puzzle pieces within 5 minutes. Second, on my signal, you will start at the pieces same time. And the third, may I say stop, you will raise your work and post it on the board. Fourth, this is how you will be scored. The rubrics, promptness 5 points, correct arrangement 5 points, the group collaboration 5 points, total 15 points. I want you to look at the picture that you have posted on the board. What do you think they are?
They are cells, ma'am.
Very good. Those are examples of set. Can we be able to see them with our naked eye?
No, ma'am. No.
Okay. What tool are we going to use to observe cell?
We are going to use a microscope to be able to see a cell.
And what else do you observe on the cell that you have been posted?
Have different shapes and sizes.
Very good. Some are in rectangular shape while others are irregular or in a round shape. How about their parts? Do they have the same parts?
Most of the parts are the same.
Do you think plants and animals have cells?
Yes, ma'am, both plants and animals have cells.
Very good. Actually, all organisms have cells. So those pictures are actually examples of plant and animal cells, which is our new lesson for today. So for our learning objectives, identify and label the parts of plant and animal cell, compare and contrast plant and animal cells, then relate the important part of the cell to the existence of an organism. Now, get your assemble puzzle pieces and we will be using it for our next activity. For you to have a clear view and understanding of the parts and function of the plants and animals. Likewise, their similarities and differences, you will watch a presentation about plant and animal cells.
Animal and plant cells share many similarities, since they are both eukaryotes, which means that they have a membrane-bound nucleus. Plant cells are often larger than animal cells. Well, except for eggs, the largest single animal cell is an unfertilized ostrich egg, which weighs around 1.5 kilograms. So let's discuss similarities. Both animal and plant cells have membrane-bound organelles. They also both have cytoplasm, a cell membrane, a nucleus, mitochondria, rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, a Golgi apparatus, and peroxisomes. The nucleus is where the genetic information of the cell is housed. The cytoplasm is not to be confused with the cytosol. The cytoplasm is the entirety of the cell contained by the cell membrane. The cytosol, on the other hand, is the part of the cytoplasm not taken up by organelles. The cell membrane is an important semi-permeable division between the cell and its surroundings. It allows the cell to control its own biochemistry by only letting certain substances pass through it. Mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. They are specialized to perform aerobic respiration, converting glucose to ATP, which is the energy currency of the cell that is used to perform functions necessary for life. Both rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum help with the production and storage of proteins. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is covered in ribosomes, which translate RNA into protein. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum makes lipids. The Golgi apparatus modifies proteins. Peroxisomes metabolize waste. Now let's get to the differences between plant and animal cells. One major difference is that plant cells have a rigid cell wall around their plasma membrane. It is composed of cellulose, providing additional stability and protection. As a result, plant cells have fixed angular shapes, while animal cells are mostly round and irregular. Another important difference between animals and plants is how they obtain their energy. Plants are autotrophs, which means that they produce their own food. Meanwhile, animals are heterotrophs, meaning that they must ingest their food. Plants produce sugars through photosynthesis, and then break down the sugar to produce energy. Animals consume other organisms such as plants to obtain sugar, which they then also break down to produce energy. Plants are autotrophs thanks to special organelles called chloroplasts, which are full of chlorophyll, a green pigment that captures light energy to drive the reactions in photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants use the sun's energy to make sugar. Once the sugar is made, it gets broken down in mitochondria. Another important difference between plant and animal cells is in their vacuoles. Vacuoles in plant cells can occupy up to 90% of the cell's volume, and have a single membrane. One of their roles is simply to fill up space, but they can also have digestive functions similar to lysosomes. Vacuoles have enzymes that perform many functions and can store nutrients or provide space to degrade waste substances. Animal cells can also have vacuoles, but they are much smaller than the large central vacuole in plant cells. There are multiple of them, and they don't take up 90% of the space. Animal cells have clearly defined lysosomes. However, it's still debated whether some plant cells have them. Lysosomes are membrane-bound spherical vesicles containing hydrolytic enzymes that can break down biomolecules. They are involved in cell processes like secretion, plasma membrane repair, cell signaling, and energy metabolism. Plant cells also have plasmodesmata, which are channels that connect two plant cells. An analogous structure in animal cells is the gap junction, which connects the cytoplasm of two adjacent.
Now for our activity, I will explain the mechanics. First mechanics, attach the assemble puzzle pieces on the cartolina provided. Label the parts of the cell, write it on the paper strip that I will give you. 3. Arrange or rather answer the question on the worksheet and write your answer on the cartolina. 4. Finish the task in 10 minutes. This is how you will be scored for our rubrics. Promptness 5 points, correct answer 5 points, and the group collaboration 5 points. Total 15 points. Is there any clarification or questions?
None, ma'am.
Let us check and discuss what you have done. So in the previous lesson, we talked about the levels of biological organization. So in this lesson, we will discuss about the first level of biological organization, which is the cell. We learned that microscope enables us to see small things because of its ability to magnify. The first person to observe cell as the microscopic structure was the British scientist Robert Hooke. In fact, he was the person who gives styles turning. When Robert Hooke carefully examined a very thin slice of cork, he thought the close-up view resembles small empty rooms. He referred to these tiny rooms, the cells, from the Latin word cellulae, which means small rooms. A cell is made of tiny organs called organelles perform a specific function. So they are called organelles because they are like little organs that have its own function. So from what we discussed in the previous lesson, we learned that cell is the basic unit of life. There are two kinds of cells, the plant cell and the animal cell. We will be differentiating both types of cells, but for now, let's talk about its parts and function first. While cells differ in size and shape, most of them have a common structure. The cells of animals, plants, and related organisms have three basic structures: the cell membrane, the nucleus, and the cytoplasm. The cell membrane, also known as the plasma membrane, encapsulates the contents of the cell. It is like a fence or acts as a gatekeeper to protect the cell from the outside environment. It is also control what materials can go in and out of the cell. So the cell membrane is made up of two layers of phospholipids or phospholipid bilayer. Then the nucleus houses deoxyribonucleic acid or DNA for short, which it is the hereditary material that carries genetic instruction in all living things. It also houses virus proteins and the nucleus. It is considered as the brain of the cell because it directs all the activities of the cell. And then next is the cytoplasm. It's where all the organelles are located and has a jelly-like fluid. It is the material between the cell membrane and the nucleus. And alright, so let's move on the organelles. So the first organelle we're going to discuss is the mitochondrion or mitochondria in a plural form. It is one of the largest organelles within a cell. It is also known as the powerhouse of the cell, since it is where the energy of the cell and the adenosine triphosphate or ATP for short is produced. Next, we have the ribosomes. Ribosomes are tiny organelles like dots that contain ribonucleic acid or RNA and specific proteins within the cytoplasm. Within the cell, ribosomes are directly involved in the manufacture of proteins. Another organelle in the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER for short. There are two types of ER, the smooth ER and the rough ER. The smooth ER is named so It because lacks of ribosomes in its surface. However, the rough ER is the opposite. Since the rough ER has a ribosomes, it is involved in the manufacture of proteins in the cell. The rough ER also helps in the transportation of proteins. On the other hand, the smooth ER is involved in the synthesis of lipids like phospholipids, which are used to build the cell membrane. Other functions of the smooth ER include the metabolism of carbohydrates, enzyme production in the liver, and contraction of muscle cells in the muscles. And another organelle is the Golgi apparatus. It is responsible for transporting, modifying, and packaging proteins and lipids into a vesicle for delivery to target destinations. It is located in the cytoplasm next to the endoplasmic reticulum and near the cell nucleus. While many types of cell contains only one or several Golgi apparatus, plant cells can contain hundreds. Did you know that cells also produce waste in the cytoplasm? Cytoplasm structures, called lysosomes, contains chemical that digest waste and worn out or damaged cell parts. Lysosomes acts as the waste disposal system of the cell by digesting obsolete or unused materials in the cytoplasm. Thus, lysosomes are also called suicidal valve of the cell. And lastly, we have the vacuole. A vacuole may be described as a space inside the cell that does not contain cytoplasm. It is surrounded by a membrane and filled with a fluid. Vacuoles stored various molecules including enzymes, waste product of the cell, water, and even food material, depending on the type of a cell. Both plant and animal cells contain membrane-bound organelles like the nucleus in the mitochondria. However, plant cells and animal cells do not look exactly the same or have all the same organelles, since each of them have different needs. So how are the plants and animal cells similar or different? Why do plant and animal cells have differences? So, plant and animal cells differ because they have to perform different functions. Both animal and plant cells have mitochondria, but only plant cells have chloroplasts. Plants don't get their sugar from eating food, so they need to make sugar with the help of the sunlight. This process, known as photosynthesis, takes place in the chloroplast. Once the sugar is made, it is when broken down by the mitochondria to make energy for the cell because animals get sugar from the food they eat. They do not need chloroplast, just mitochondria. Both plant and animal cells have a vacuole. A plant cell contains a large singular vacuole that is used for storage and maintaining the shape of the cell. In contrast, animal cells have many smaller vacuoles. Not even seen in this illustration is the vacuole of the animal cell. Both plant and animal cells have a cell membrane, but only plant cells have a cell wall. In plant cells, the cell wall surrounds the cell membrane. This gives the plant cell a box-like shape. This also allows plants to remain strong and stand upright even if they grow to great heights. Lysosomes are found in nearly every animal cell. They are common in animal cells because even animal cells take in or absorb food. They need the enzymes found in the lysosomes to digest and use the food for energy. On the other hand, lysosomes are not commonly found in the plant cells.
Lysosomes are not needed in plant cells because they have cell walls that are tough enough to keep large or foreign substances. Lysosomes would usually digest out of the cell. Lastly, we have the centrosome. The centrosome is a microtubule organizing center found of the animal cells. It contains a pair of centrosomes, two structures that lie perpendicular to each other. The centrosome replicates itself before a cell divides. The centrose appears to have some role in pulling and however, the exact function of the centrose in cell division isn't clear because the cells that have had the centrosome removed can still divide, and plant cells which lack centrosomes are capable of cell division. Alright, as we recap here are all the organelles that we talked about. The three basic components of the cell are the cell membrane, the nucleus, and the cytoplasm. Within the cytoplasm are the organelles, which are the mitochondria, ribosomes, smooth and rough endoplasmic reticulum, and then the Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, and not seen in the illustration of the cell, of the animal cell, is the vacuole. Those are the very basic organelles of the cell.
What are the parts of plant cells?
Cell membrane, cell wall, vacuole, mitochondria, nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, chloroplast, and Golgi apparatus.
What are the parts of an animal cell?
Have a cell membrane, nucleus, cytoplasm, ribosomes, mitochondria, lysosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, and the Golgi apparatus.
What are the parts that can be both found in plant and animal cells and their functions?
Nucleus is the control center of the cell, directs and coordinates all cellular activities. Mitochondria provides energy for a cell in the form of adenosine triphosphate. Lysosomes break down excess or burn out cell parts. Endoplasmic reticulum, translocation of materials within the cell and in and out of the nucleus. Cell membrane or plasma membrane regulates the entry and exit of materials. Golgi apparatus sorts, packages, and secretes materials also involved in the processing and modification of proteins.
Now, what are the parts that can only be found in the cells?
The chloroplast, cell wall, and plastids.
What are their functions?
Chloroplast convert the sunlight into energy. Cell wall gives and stability protection to the plant cell. Plastids contain pigments and store food materials.
Now, how about the parts that can be found in animal cells?
Ribosomes and the centrosomes.
Okay, and what are their functions?
Ribosomes, where proteins are made. Centrosomes provide structure for the
Do
cell.
you think cells need to function properly?
Yes, ma'am.
What if part of our cells fail to function properly? Will it affect us and how?
It depends, ma'am, on what part, but definitely it may lead and act differently, which may lead to cell death, mutation, and adaptation that will eventually affect the entire organisms.
Now, I will distribute these happy and sad faces to your group at this point and time. Assess yourself as a group. If you already learned something or still confused on the topic that we are discussing, as you present the happy face and the sad face, complete this complete this statement. I feel happy because I learned that blank. I feel sad because blank. Then, this is the Venn diagram. It is used to compare and contrast two things. Copy and fill out and compare plant and animal cells. You will put their similarities on the overlapping lines and add their differences of both sides. Now, In your assignment, in short bond paper, draw, color, and label parts and animal cells. Second, what are the characteristics of fungi, protists, and bacteria? Okay, class, that will be all for today. I hope you learned something new. That's all. Thank you.